Do you wish somebody wrote down the recipe for your parenting challenges? Did you want tips and tricks to become a better mama for you and your babies? I know I do. If you're a mother who feels that you are doing the best you can with the hands you've been dealt, but you're still getting it done, then this podcast is for you. I'm so glad you tuned in to Nailed It Motherhood, because we might have the recipe that nobody wrote down. Hey, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Nailed It Motherhood podcast. I am your host with the most, Tamara Eldridge. Listeners, I am super excited about what we have today, but you know how we do. I have to first talk to you. So listeners, I want to thank you all for being very faithful followers. The few that I have, I've been watching the numbers, we're growing. I thank you and I appreciate you for joining the journey and following me. I thank you all for applying after you see, what we're about, that we're here to really highlight just the average parent that we see on a daily basis. And I want to ask you to continue listening, but also I would love if you could share, if you could comment, and you can rate the podcast wherever you may listen, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's StreamYard, whether it is, where else do we listen? Spotify, whether it's Amazon Music. Please like, rate, and share. Okay, enough about me and the podcast. Listeners, I know you are not here for me today. That's typically how it is, and I'm okay with that. But I know you want to hear some possible recipes from our guests. I promise you, you absolutely will get something that you might need today. I am very much in awe with today's guest. Though we literally just met, this mama is a spirit that I have known for a while. This single mother of two is a God-fearing woman who is also a writer. That's a double check for me. She is also an inspirational speaker and truly as authentic as they come. Mamas, papas, grandmas, and the village. Please help me welcome Miss Takia Ann Corbin. Hey, girl.
Hi. That intro was so amazing. To the listeners, I want you to know who I am. My name is Takia, and I'm an author, a speaker, and a writer. But my favorite title of all time is Mother. I've been in the game I wrote my first book in 2019. Yeah, so I've been on this for a little while now, and I am just grateful to allow you guys to hear my story and be tuned in regards to what I am going to speak about. And I pray that this podcast follow on the airs of you're supposed to follow.
Absolutely. I know from the brief conversation that we have had, listeners, this woman has a lot to offer, but I don't want to jump the gun because we're going to go with the structure of the show. And then we will get to hear her herstory segment because I promise you, you are going to want it. I might even ask you all to grab a notebook or a journal because you might want to write whatever you get from this lady right here. But before we get into that, as always, we do have a Tavi Tale segment. And today I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to ask Takia a question because she does have two young kids. I'm going to ask her a question because I want to know, Takia, do you ever try your kids' food whenever you buy food specifically for them?
Yes, all the time, especially from McDonald's. I'm always eating the fries in the bag.
Oh, absolutely, the McDonald's food. But the kind of food I'm talking about, here's a little story. I bought these Tyson chicken bites for my baby girl, Tommy. And she likes to eat. She eats a lot of different things. But then there are times where she is in love with one food item one week. And then the next week, she's like, I don't like that. And it's like, but you literally just tore up 3 bags last week. So I went and bought another bag and now you don't like it. So she's been really picky. So I went and purchased these chicken bites because they're usually safe. She tore those chicken bites up, tore them
Red
up.
Tyson.
Yes, they were Tyson. And, Tyson, you can trust Tyson. Now, I one day was cooking and I decided I didn't really want what I cooked. I'll save that for lunch. So let me just have some of these chicken bites with Tavi. I ate into the chicken bite, bit into the chicken bite, and I was so grossed out because it tasted like it was pureed chicken that they put it in a blender, then they pushed it together, mushed it up into a ball, and put breading on it, and then fried it. I was so disturbed by this because she tore it up. Like it was gone. It was gone. She was asking for more. She was asking for more ketchup, more barbecue sauce. And I'm like, I think I'm done. I'm not even eating anymore because I was so disgusted. But there are foods that I would try when she was growing up, like baby applesauce. I would try the baby food when she was a baby because I wanted to see if it was any good if I was going to feed it to her. And then if it wasn't good and she wasn't eating it, I understood why. So I wouldn't buy it again. But, I just wanted to share that, we appreciate whoever thinks about kids when they're making all of these packages of baby food, when they're making chicken fingers, when they're making personal pan pizzas. But I do just ask that when you are thinking about these recipes, you are truly thinking about our babies and their health and their taste buds. Because some of this food, it just ain't cool, if you will, But thank you so much for listening to my Toffee Tale. We're going to move on and not think about those Tyson chicken bites. I will keep buying them as long as I eat them, but I will not partake any longer.
Will you be bad more?
I'll buy it for her. I hope she grows out of them soon. Because the pack that I buy is just so small. You can really only get 1.5 servings out of it. So it's like I'm spending all this money on every bag of food, but it's really not that good. So moving on. Thank you for listening. Today, we are not here to talk about Tyson chicken bites. We are here to talk about Miss Takia Ann Corbin and her powerful story. So listeners, I really, really, really want you all to get prepared because I need you to know that this story right here is important because her personal parenting journey was not one that was easy, but it is one that was necessary because I believe that she was meant to be a witness to single moms that are holding it down in a relationship that they probably don't need to be in. Whether the man is good, whatever the situation may be, they know that this isn't where I'm supposed to be. So maybe by listening to this woman's story, you can think about ways that you can make your relationship with yourself a little bit healthier. And I will leave it at that. And I will give Miss Takia Ann the floor and shut my mouth and let her share her personal parenting journey. Takia, it is all yours.
Alrighty, so my journey started back when I had my first son in 2015. Me and his father was together for 3.5 years. And then I decided to walk away from that relationship because it was a toxic relationship in regards to, it was mental abusive, not physically abusive. So, but I do remember vividly saying one day to him, we were sitting in the living room after we had our son. And I was like, if I'm not happy no more, I'm leaving this situation. And that's exactly what I did when I began to not feel happy no more. And I began to feel like I was standing up for myself. One day I realized I'd rather my son have a happy mother than for me to be in a relationship that I don't want to be in. I'm staying somewhere where I don't want to be. And then I began to pray. I asked God to show me my purpose and show me my passion so my passion could lead me to my purpose. And then I would be able to thrive in life. I moved into a 1-bedroom, well, not a 1-bedroom, but back into my grandmother's house with my 1-year-old son. And that's where I began to journal. And that's when God placed downloads in my spirit I would share snippets of me journaling, and people would always like inbox me like, "Oh my God, I love your journaling and your writing. Thank you for helping me get through." And then one day I see my friend, and I have all my dates written down. So February 28th, 2017 is when I wrote and manifested that I was going to use social media to spread God's love and joy. I wanted to be a light in a dark place where so many thrive off negative energy. I wanted to do something different. October 30th, 2017 was when I started doing my quotes and my stories. Then I was receiving a lot of positive feedback, which we all know IG stories get deleted after 24 hours. August 6, 2017. And so just to give y'all like a little backstory, I broke up with my son's father in July of 2017. October 30th, 2017 was when I started doing my quotes, my story. I said that. August 6, 2017 was when I got the idea for my book. As my friend came up to me, she asked me like, "Hey, do you think, why don't you start writing a book?" And then August 8th of 2017 was when I started writing the book. March 9th, 2019 is when I completed the book. And then when December 30th, I sat on a panel and I spoke at an event called Sit, Plan, and Manifest. I didn't realize how powerful my words was until people began to reach out to me telling me like, "You saved me from a domestic violence relationship. You saved me because of your word." And throughout my whole journey, the only thing that I really wanted was to meet someone one day and they say, "Because of you, I didn't give up on me." And that was my biggest thing. So that's why I call myself an inspirational speaker, because one thing I felt like with me listening to a lot of motivational speakers, that they were leaving out the part that you have to do the work and the work that you have to do, to get to the next step in your journey. And I felt like for me, I'd rather be a single mom that's happy and my kids have a happy mom than stand in a relationship that's no longer serving me. The worst place that you can be is with somebody that you don't feel like you're being seen, heard, or anything in those nature. So that's where my journey began. When I moved in with my grandma, I was instantly convicted of the Holy Spirit. I felt like God was doing a new thing in me and was doing it in new ways. So I was excited about what God was doing to me and through me in this season. So I began to write. I began to listen for his voice. I began to read the Bible. I began to attend church more. I had a real encounter with God. And I heard his voice, and it wasn't like no micro mint, like a big phone, like that type of voice. No, it was my thoughts in my head. I got chills over me, which I knew was off coming from the Holy Spirit. And I just began to listen for God, but I had to be still. I was really still when I heard God's voice. And God was telling me to do everything that it is that I have done up until this day. I feel like then I was listening to God was doing all these things. And then I fast forward, I moved in 2020 in the pandemic. Me and my son was able to get our own place, which was just ours, and everything was going good. Until one day I decided that I was ready to start dating. But I never consulted this information with God. I just automatically was just like, I'm ready to start dating out of a sense of loneliness. So then I went back into the wilderness, and that's where I met my daughter's father at. So I was in Houston, being a hot girl, doing things that I wasn't supposed to be doing because I did pray to be released from those things. Prior, I used to struggle with insecurities. I used to struggle because I was always dealing with someone's man or dealing with guys who didn't see me worthy enough, didn't see fit. And I was just living a life of sin, hopping in and out of planes, partying, clubbing, and then just sleeping around. So I struggle with my worth. And I feel like growing up, our moms and our fathers and our grandparents, like they teach us how to love each other, but no one really teaches you how to love you. So with me being at a big age, I had to really sit down with myself and learn myself, I had to say, is this your favorite color? Do you really like this color? Or do you just say it because that's something you were programmed to say? I just begin to like go down a list of things, my favorite food, my favorite music, my favorite things that made me feel happy. I began to date myself again. I started taking myself out to the movies, out to eat. And then it became a part of like my self-care. At first, it was like a little scary, but it was just like, I had to do what I need to do in order for me to fall in love with myself. But back to, so I met my daughter's dad in Houston. We were together for 3 years. Throughout the 3 years, we were only in a relationship for 1 year. Throughout those years, it was very toxic, up and down, on and off situation. And then his sister had passed away. And the night of her wake, I got pregnant with my daughter. So I decided to keep my daughter because I felt like my daughter was a gift from God. I did, however, make an abortion appointment. The first one I made, the abortion clinic canceled it. The second one I made, I wasn't doing anything out of the space of a confusion. So I canceled my appointment. And then I decided that I was going to be a single mom again for the second time, which for me, that was not ideal. I was beating myself up. I'm like, how can I do this? How did I even let myself get here? And then now she's here. And I have moments where it's just me, my son, my daughter, my dog. And I say, a perfect family sometimes is a mom, a happy mom and her children. And you have to understand that each season, happiness is going to look different. Happiness will be different for you and to you. And you just got to be okay with that. You got to be okay with rolling with the punches. You got to be okay with surrendering to God. You got to be okay with asking God, what is it that you want from me in this season? Because sometimes he just wants your undivided attention, and people and places and things can be distracted. So like I said, I feel like nothing's a mistake. My son or my daughter is not a mistake. And I do get overwhelmed with being single, but it does not stop me from going after my dreams, going after my goals, and doing things that God is telling me to do and things that God placed in my heart. Again, I wrote my first book in 2019, which is called Walk with Purpose, Not on Purpose. It's a 30-day daily devotional. I wrote my second book, and it was released in 2021, which is called Scenes from a Single Mom. My snippet in there is called Mirror Mirror. It talks about how I struggle with insecurities, doubt, just who I was as a being, because I didn't know who I was. So I was just saying yes to everything else but myself. In a moment I begin to say yes to me, is that's when I start showing up for me. So I feel like it's very important as a woman to truly understand who you are so you can show up for yourself. And know, like, everything you say yes to, know what you're going to say no to as well. Setting healthy boundaries, knowing like the pieces of the puzzle that you need from you in order to get what you need to get from someone else. Because if you don't treat you well, everybody else is going to treat you exactly how you treat you. So now I look in the mirror and I'm so proud of me. I feel like my little girl self is so proud of me. We're doing this, we're doing it, and we are rocking motherhood. Although we are doing it alone, it's okay. Like, it's okay because I'm never alone. I always have God on my side. He's always with me. He's always protecting me. He's always guiding me into the next step and what I'm supposed to do. And I have an amazing village, like my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather, my sisters, my best friend. I have probably the most amazing village that a girl can ask for. I also make sure that my story is just not me. It's a part of me. But it's not who I am as a being. I'm not, like, and then I feel like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel like, I told my story in a few, different areas. I did the Mom of Montalage. I did that, March 10th, 2021. And then it aired May 4th, 2021. And I'm just going to keep going. I'm also, right now, I am a mentor at Langley High School, and I mentor girls in regards to loving ourselves, sixth graders. And I love that because it started off as an idea, which is called the Purposeful Thinker courses. And I went into high school to teach high school girls first, but now I get paid for it to do it at an after school program with sixth graders. So I just want to inspire someone to keep going. Like, don't give up on yourself because you're stuck in a season and you don't see where it can go from here. Just always remember that when it rains, the weather changes outside. Just like our life, the sun will come back out again.
I I was just writing. You said so much, so much. Oh my God. Yeah. So let me start backwards with
Okay.
one of the last things that you shared. First, let me back up. Thank you. Thank you for being transparent and vulnerable. You really said a lot that really we could break down and chew. We don't have the time for that tonight, but you are a writer, so I'm excited to see where you go with all of it. You started talking about if you were a little girl, had you known certain things about yourself and whatever the case is where you are today, all the things that you experienced, if you'd known all of this. So the question that I have for you is if you could go back and encourage yourself as a little girl, where would you start?
I would start around the age of 15, 14. I would just advise myself that you're more worthy than what men are telling you or what they say to you. It's like you got to understand who you are as a being in order for you to give yourself to anyone. So I want to start around at that age.
I love it. Self-worth at a young age is so critical. I don't know, you might know this guest, Erica. Um, she and I talked about this in season one, but just really, really knowing who you are and knowing how to love yourself, which you definitely touched on. And I think it first comes with knowing how to love God as he sees. One of my very favorite scriptures is, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. That's the scripture. That's one of my very favorite scriptures. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. If we understand that scripture at a young age, we have to understand that God intentionally designed us as an individual and he loved everything about who he made us to be. And if we can love us like he loves us, then we probably won't make a lot of decisions that we do. But such is life. We have to go through some things. And some of it is not, a lot of people like to blame things on God and say, oh, God put me here. But no, sometimes we put us there because we refuse to listen. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate a lot of the things that you did share. And one of the first things that I really wrote in all caps was once you moved into your grandmother's home with your son, you encountered the Holy Spirit and you began to develop that relationship and you began to hear his voice and understand when he was talking to you, but you had to be still. Tell me, what is that like? From being someone who is really outgoing, social, hanging out with a lot of people, doing your own thing because you're grown and you can, to now having to learn, wait a minute, God is not pleased with me doing this. I have to be still and I have to hear his voice. Can you tell me what that is, what that looks like for you and how that changed the trajectory of your life?
For me, I had to stop going out. I had to really just zone in on what God was trying to say to me. So I would have quiet time in the morning. I had there was a I think it was for a woman who did breastfeeding, a room at my old job. And I used to go in there and I used to take my Bible. I had 2 daily devotions in a journal. And that's where I would go and sit and be alone with God. And then when I was home, my grandma's house was busy. So I'm going to break it down. There's my grandma and my granddad in one room, me and my son in another room, my uncle in another room. So it was like all these people. So I had to find somewhere to get quiet and still my voice. And then like I also around that time was learning about like people's energies and people rubbing off on you and things in that nature. But devotionals was always my go-to to have my time alone with God. No matter what, every time I read them, I felt like he was speaking to me in that moment. And then I learned so when he first started speaking to me, I would ask him to confirm it with a Bible verse. And he would. Until one day he was like, no, like I'm not doing this no more. Like you should know my voice. You should be able to know who I am by now because I'm not doing this with you no more. Like, but in that time, you know what I realized? Because I grew up as a Christian. Like I went to church on Easter. I went to church Sundays. I got baptized twice. I feel like the water is wearing off a little bit. I might have to get dipped again, but I grew up as a Christian, and then when I started to get older, I was like, I focused more on my relationship with God more than anything, and that's what saved me, my relationship with God, because a relationship is a two-way street. It's not just a one-way street.
That's awesome. That is so real because as teenagers, we're basically, I will say, when we were growing up as teenagers, we were basically voluntold to have a relationship with God, but we were never truly explained why and what that meant. Get saved so you don't go to hell. That was it. God don't like ugly. So you need to get saved. That was it. It wasn't, no, this is what a relationship looks like with God. This is what it feels like when you can feel his spirit. It wasn't all of that. But that relationship with God helped you come up with a roadmap, essentially. And I wrote down some of the major points that you were just spitting out on. I don't even know if you realized that you said it, but you were basically saying when you are truly heeding to God's word, you have to be able to understand how to roll with his punches, how to surrender to God, and how to ask God what he wants for your life. I thought that was powerful because that's basically probably what drove the success of the journal turned into a book, and then the thoughts for Sins from a Single Mom. Like there was power in you surrendering and saying, God, I'm hearing what you're asking of me. I know that something in me has to change. And I'm going to do what it is that you want me to do, because at the end of the day, you know what's on the other side of this trial, this tribulation, this stillness, whatever the case may be, where you need me to listen to you. So I love that. I love that. You said soon after that you were living in a time where you were saying yes to everyone but yourself. Can you break that down a little bit more about how that led to you loving yourself truly and you really just knowing that you were that girl?
I was a people pleaser. So I would just be like, every time somebody wanted me somewhere or doing something, I would always be like, yes, yes, yes. And then I spent a lot of time trying to show people I was a good person. But what I realized is a good person is a good person. You don't have to show anyone you're a good person. 10 years from now, 12 years from now, 20 years from now, someone's going to come back and be like, you've always been a good person because you are a good person. You don't have to prove anything to nobody but yourself. And when I got in a space of realizing, like, if I keep saying yes to everybody else but me, I'm going to keep spreading myself so thin that I'm not even going to be able to show up for me. So when I begin to, like, pour back into myself, that's when I begin to get like a little selfish with myself, with my time, where I was spending my time at, who I was spending my time with, and what I was even entertaining, because it was just like, that doesn't serve me no more. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. That doesn't serve me no more. And just being okay with knowing that you're growing, you're changing, things are going to look different. And you just got to learn how to say, I'm saying yes to me, but everything else around me, I'm saying no to that. Like, so, and just being okay, saying that's okay and nothing's wrong with it.
I love that you've done that for yourself, because it kind of confirms what you were talking about earlier about seasons and being happy during different seasons, which I think is critical because we should be evolving as people and we should be understanding what's working for us and what's not, and what we need in our lives to thrive so that we can truly just be better people, but because we're parents, be better parents. So, can you speak on how that affected your parenthood, your parenting, whenever you did say yes to yourself, whenever you really truly figured out, I can't do everything for everybody?
Well, one, I realized that I was taking my joy back, like gaining it back. And I realized happiness is one thing and happiness comes in flows, right? But I asked God, how can I have joy in my everyday life? Like, what does that look like to me? And then as I begin to show it better for me, I realized like I begin to show up as a better parent, because at first, when I broke up with my son's father, I'm not going to sit here and like tell a story or nothing, but I didn't want to be a mom because I didn't know how to be a family without the family aspect of it. So then when I began to love on myself and show up for myself, and different talks with my grandmother, she just told me like, you can do this, you're equipped for this, like all that God has placed inside of you, you can do this. So I just worked hard, and like in my free time I've learned how to date, as well as I was learning how to date myself. I was dating my son too. Like I made sure I took him out. I made sure I did things with him on a day-to-day basis, not just like our housely things or things in the house. No, I made sure that he was a happy kid too, despite of our situation.
That's awesome. And I love that you really reflected on what is going to benefit him the most when it comes to this
Mhm.
relationship, and you chose healthy over happy. And I love that because you really evaluated the love that was coming out in the relationship was toxic, and that eventually would have trickled down and poisoned his mindset. And I love the fact that you stopped and you really thought about what it is that I need, what it is that we need. It's very, very valuable and mature of you to do. So, thank you for being able to share that. I do hope that listeners can stop and really, take heed if they need to, if this is something that they need. It's not always looked upon positively, especially not among Black women and Black mothers. But sometimes we really have to think about what is necessary for those who we are taking care of. And I will say, I thank my mother for doing that, because I'm a product of somebody saying, no, this is not good for me or my children. So I wouldn't be here today or the person I am today had she not done that. And I'm sure one day your son and your daughter are going to say, thank you, Mom. Thank you for thinking of the perfect family and what God's love looks like in this family. I am very happy that you are one of the mentors at Langley. That is amazing. And I love that you can really share your story to those girls. Like the age that you would have been 15, if you were to go back and tell yourself, I'm going to encourage you with these words you can use. And I love that. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing this. I just started this program. Well, I've been doing the Purposeful Thinker. I was going to Obama to do it at first, just voluntarily. I started that in February, I want to say. And then I started with the girls at Langley I started with the girls at Obama last year in like October. And then I started with the girls at Langley in like at the end of February. Yeah, I started with the girls at the end of February.
Awesome. I commend you. I work in education. I don't work directly with the students much, but I love when we get to see people that look like us doing things with that. Like it's beautiful, and I pray that it sticks, even if they are just there for the snacks.
I want to, before we go on, I wanted to share a Bible verse because you said something about a Bible verse. Okay, this was a Bible verse that kept me while I was in the hospital with my daughter because her father, he didn't stay. Like, we weren't together. We weren't in a relationship. So when I had her father didn't stay, like, at the hospital and stuff. He came, of course. He was there when I gave birth, but he didn't, like, stay at the hospital, which it was so emotional, but I, linked God. And this was a Bible verse that kept me through my pregnancy. If I go to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. I just recited that over and over and over. And it just reminded me that God was with me no matter what.
I love it. We talked when we spoke. There was so much that you said that resonated with me and my story, which I share here and there. But when you go to the heavens, you are there. When what is it? The depths, you are there. That means so much because we think that God leaves us, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just that He's constant. He's there. It's us that turns away. And all we have to do is turn back and seek his face. And like so many questions were answered when I recognized that I needed to go to him. And I have mentioned that. So I'm not going to take your episode to go back to my story and
You're fine. And then I also just say, like, for me now, I always tell myself that, like, I found a common ground in my heart for my younger self and my adult self to meet. And I always tell her, like, girl, we are doing so well. You would be so proud of us now.
I love it.
Yeah.
So the last thing I will say before we move on to tea time is you didn't realize how powerful your words are until other people shared that with you. And that's amazing that like I think that there's a humility with that you're just writing, you're just pouring out your heart and your heart has so much value on paper that it can help somebody else. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I have not had an opportunity to purchase your books yet, but trust and believe I will be buying before this episode airs. So I can shout you out.
They're available on Amazon. Just type in Walk with Purpose, not on purpose.
I will be doing that as soon as we hop off the phone. So I also hope that listeners can go ahead and purchase those books. Do you have anything in the works for us?
As of right now, no, because that was something God placed on my spirit. I do, however, feel like it is time to start writing again.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll check.
I have a title for my next book. I do have that.
So you do have something. You just have to sit down and do it.
I do.
I got it. I totally understand. I'm pushing too. I am going to push you. Okay. Again, I thank you for sharing your story. I do, we talked about this before we hit record, and I pray that the person or people who needed to hear are listening right now. And they can download this episode. They can play as much of it as they need to remind them who they are and whose they are. But We are going to have a little bit of fun with you and get to know you a little bit more. And we're going to play tea time. Are you ready to?
Ready? Yes, I am.
Listeners, tea time is a game of rapid fire. I have a series of questions that I have written for all of our guests. Takia has not been privy to any of these questions. So this will be a surprise for her as I ask the questions. But she will have 3 minutes to answer as many questions as she can so we can get to know her a little bit better. So, since she's ready, listeners, are y'all ready? I sure hope so, because we're about to begin. Name one book, podcast, or resource that's changed your perspective.
Resisting Happiness by Matthew Kelly. I love that book. It teaches you how to really just change your perspective on life.
What's the best gift you've ever received?
Yeah. Give. I guess I would say I'm like a fashion girly, so my Go Yard purse. I will Go Yard bag, and I love it. Yeah.
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Not to do something. When people tell me don't do something.
That usually is the encourager, huh?
Yeah.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Candy. Candy is my guilty pleasure. Like gummy bears, fruities and stuff like that. Like I love candy. Even at this big age, I still love candy.
I'm guilty. What is the last TV show or movie you binge watched?
I'm trying to get into, I think is it the Beauty Black, what is it called?
Is it Beauty and Black or something like that?
Yes.
I can't do it. I'm not a Tyler Perry person, but that's not about
I'm trying to get into
about me. We'll talk about it later.
Right.
What's the most ridiculous fear you have ever had?
Fear. Fear of, I'm not really like, fear of crashing. I don't know why I hate that. Like it's so stupid. Like fear of crashing.
I kind of never mind. Who is your celebrity crush?
That's a good one. My celebrity crush. The last celebrity crush I had was Omar Hardwick, from Power, because I love the way he played Ghost. He did a good job.
If you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
Skill. Let me see. Skill. Master. Skill. Technology. Anything with tech.
That's a good skill because at this point you could get any job if you know technology.
Yes, like coding.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
like coding. That would be it.
Thank you for playing Tea Time. We had a lot of common answers. I don't really have a lot of fears, but getting into a car crash specifically for me is one of them.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah. You just can't trust people on the road. Like, All right. So again, Takia, I want to thank you for sharing your powerful story. I personally think that it is so crucial for people to really evaluate their relationships and don't just be in it for status quo. If it's not of God, two, and I turned today's episode into a Christian episode, but such is life. If it's not of God, and if you're not truly happy, do not stay in the relationship. Kids can sense that.
Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. There's better. And I always want a mom to know that is listening to this, or even a father. There's always better out there. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be next week. It might not even be next year. But you will meet better, and better will come. I have a saying, I say better is here and better is now.
Yes, inspirational speaker. So I'm going to actually then hand the floor back over to you because that was a good segue. So if you have anything that you would love to share to listeners, whether they're moms, whether they're dads, any inspirational words that you would like to leave for our listeners, I'm going to give you the floor again before we head on out.
If I had to leave you guys with anything, I would say, which is one of my quotes, I don't have a plan B because God's plan is going to work for me. No matter where you're at in life, no matter what is happening, no matter what it looked like, just know God always have a plan for you and it's going to work itself out. Every piece to the puzzle is going to fit to the next piece and it is all going to work out. So don't stress out.
Yes. I don't have a plan B because God's plan is going to work for me. I love it. I've been inspired today. I know that's for sure. So before we go to Kia, I just have a couple more questions for you. The first question, is parenting hard?
Yes, it is. Every day looks different.
Mm-hmm.
Some days are easier than others, but trying to multitask and juggle everything as a parent, yes, it is it is hard.
But are they still standing?
Yes, some kids are still standing and they're fed and they're bathed and they have a roof over their head and clothes on their back.
Fed and out. Well, so what do you want to proudly tell our guests today?
This mom is nailing it.
Nailing it. And she is. Oh gosh. If you like this episode and you want to hear more personal parenting journeys, subscribe to my social media, Nailed It Motherhood podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We also have a website that is naileditmotherhood.com. And, that will be your one-stop shop about our podcast. We do have a posting page. It's kind of like a mini Facebook we're trying to create because we want our own community. So please check it out. Hopefully soon there will be a Nailed It online store coming soon. Do not forget that you too can be a guest on this podcast. We might be calling Takia Ann back, but that's fine. We have room for you too. You can complete the application online. The link is in the bio. We welcome all questions, comments, and ideas. So please comment on the podcast platform. Inbox me, whatever you need to come through. We're going to keep the conversation going. Until next time, listeners, keep on doing what it is that you do. Smooches.
Bye.
You're listening to Nailed It Motherhood Podcast.